Hello, party people. This is Monica Wisdom, the creator and host of the Black Women Amplified podcast. And I am here to talk to you about all the things story. Listen, first, let me start with my story. First of all, how are you doing? We got to ask each other how we're doing and what's going on. And I'm excited to be back on the YouTube with you all. It's been a minute. My apologies, but I have been working diligently behind the scenes. I have some family stuff going on, and I did a couple of interviews, and I'm excited to tell you about all the things that's happening over here. First of all, I just want to say that I started my newsletter called Speak Your Story. And so today we're going to talk about telling your story, and I'm asking the question, why haven't you told your story yet? But before we get into that, let me tell you about some exciting news. I was featured in an article with the Associated Press, and I will put the link in the description. But with all the buzz going on around Beyonce and the album Cowboy Carter, there have been some very interesting articles written, and I was a part of a really great one that told the experience from a fan's perspective, meaning not from an artist perspective, a little bit of an industry perspective, but more from the fans, because Beyonce is creating a whole new fan base for country music, as well as people like me who are country music fans and have been for a long time. The question to me was, do you feel comfortable going to those environments? And honestly, I told the story because no, I don't feel comfortable going into those environments. Um, I gave up country music for a long time, and that article talks all about why I didn't continue hanging out in the country music scene because it fell out of love with me. And I'm so excited about the article. It's really, really good, and I will put it in the description. But I want to talk today about why are you not telling your story? Here's the thing with marginalized people, and what inspired this whole thing, and what inspired my newsletter, what inspired me to shift my podcast, Black Women Amplified, was my cousin Alice Wyndham. And you can Google her and find out about her work in Africa, the people that she worked with, and all the things that she did. And I often call her a hidden figure. And recently, my family, she passed away in 2022, and my family is has gifted her archive, her work to a museum. And so we are going through the process of getting that together and getting it archived and getting it all written out so that um, the world can finally see her work, because she has archived her work for 60 years, all the way back to the 1960s. And she organized X's trip in Ghana. She took all those photographs of him in Ghana, and they were great friends. And they had big plans before he was assassinated. And so we were able to have an plan and have an event for her on her birthday, which we share a birthday. So I considered it my birthday celebration, meaning it was a celebration to I was happy to honor her on my big birthday. We were 33 years apart, and it was a day full of angel numbers. And so when she passed, I realized that she passed and she had never written her story. And I asked her many times, why don't you write a book? I mean, the work that she has done is just phenomenal. And the beauty of it is she archived her work really, really well. And now museums and historians are going to be going through her work, so they can plug it into history. So, like I said, you can Google her. You can find some of her talking events. I wouldn't call them speeches, but educational events. Like if you Google her, you can put her in and Malcolm X. You can hear her talking about her work with Malcolm X. Anyway, that inspired me to start um, a whole entire platform dedicated to a space for people, particularly Black women, to tell their story, and for those that are not ready to tell their story, to get them ready to tell their story, which prompted Speak Your Story coaching. So, where I go in and I help you create, cultivate, find, and refine your story. And if you want to take it to the next level, I can show you how to monetize it, build a platform, and all of those things. But what I have found, especially in doing the podcast, I've asked many people to come on and share their story, and many people have said no. And what I realize is that people are not ready to tell their story. And it's not because they don't have a great story to tell, but there's three reasons that I have found through my many inquiries of come on the show and tell your story. Is one, people have imposter syndrome, right? They don't feel that their story, they don't feel that they have a worthy story to tell, and they don't feel comfortable sharing it for whatever the reasons is. I'm going to call it a whole umbrella of reasons, but I'm going to put it under imposter syndrome. It could be their self worth, it could be their self esteem. It could be that they don't feel that their story is ready to be out there. Maybe they're very introverted and they're not good at public, they don't feel that they would be good at sharing their story. There's a lot of people who are not ready to tell their story that who have a lot of confidence and tell their story, but the story itself is not quite ready to be told, meaning you don't have all the elements in place to tell your story, because it's not simply about spurting out dates and times and accolades. There's a strategy to telling your story so that it's powerful and impactful. And anytime you see an interview, you see a really great interview, people typically have gone through media training so that they know what stories to tell and how to tell them. So the first reason that a lot of people will tell me no, um, or not right now, is because of imposter syndrome. They just don't feel like they belong in the mainstream. And then the second reason is because people don't think that other people will want to hear their story. They feel very self conscious, or they don't think it's important, or they don't think it's a big deal. Especially Black women, we don't think the things that we do is very much of a big deal, right? So we will say, well, somebody else has a better story than I do. You should talk to so and so, or they'll deflect. Not right now. I just, I'm not in a place for that to happen. But I get it. I was like that at one point where I wouldn't talk to anybody. There's no way I would have got on YouTube and said anything about my life. There's no way I would have done a whole podcast and just told my business, because I didn't have self worth. It wasn't that I wasn't confident. I just didn't feel that my story was worthy to be heard by other people. And then the third reason is people don't know what to say or how to say it, right? Like I said, there's a strategy in telling your story. A great story, there's a great story, and then there's a great teller. So to have a magnificent story, you want a great storyteller can tell any story, they could read the alphabet and it sounds amazing. But a great storyteller has a great story and they tell it in a great way. So the idea is, what stories do I pick to tell? And then how do I tell them? Right? So storytelling is a whole process, it's a whole strategy, and it entails confidence, not caring about what other people think, and understanding what you're talking about with confidence and power. And that's what makes an impact, and that's what connects you to other people, because it's not just about what you have to say or what you have accomplished, it's how are you telling the story. And because of that, you want to really sit down and study it. You want to study, you want to listen to great storytellers, you want to read books. I interviewed a woman named Tracy Moore, and she's a celebrity acting coach. And the one thing that she tells her students is to read out loud every single day. And I asked her, why is that? And essentially, it's so that you get used to speaking, and two, you get used to hearing the sound of your own voice, and you get to understand storytelling. So if you're reading a chapter of a book, somebody has already written a story and you get to play in that realm of sharing their story. And it's just a great exercise for them is for when they it's because when they go on cold reads. So cold read is you go in for an audition and they give you the script right before you audition. So you don't have time to practice, you don't have time to get it together. You just have to go in and read the script, and that's your audition. So it helps you to prepare for a cold read. And the same thing happens when you are preparing for an interview, a speech, a presentation. When you're out there promoting your goods or your services, or you're meeting people for the first time and you're networking, you want to have some stories prepared so that you don't feel like you're fumbling over your words, so that you don't feel like you don't know what to say in that moment. Sometimes we meet our favorite people and we get nervous and we don't know what to say. And if we're prepared to tell our story, we'll have something to say, or at least we'll have the process ready so that as we're heading to where we're going to, we'll have a story ready to tell, and you'll be able to tell it in a powerful way that people will remember. So here's the thing. I created, and I love this. There's a process that I created years ago, and I teach it to my coaching clients. I teach it to my consulting clients. I teach it, I use it myself when I'm putting together, when I'm doing media interviews, just like when I did the interview about Beyonce and country music. I have used the same framework that I'm gifting you to help me put together my stories so that no matter what the interviewer asked me, I was ready to say something. So I wasn't fumbling over my words. I wasn't clear on what I was talking about. I had to go back and remember dates and times because luckily I knew pretty much what he was going to ask me. Not specific questions, but the idea and the intention of the interview. And so because I knew all of that stuff, I could go in and be ready. And my godmother always says, you got to be ready. No, she said, what did she say? She says you have to stay ready, keep from having to get ready. So I stay ready with my stories and I'm always ready to share them. But it was a process. I had to learn it. And then I learned from other people. And eventually I developed my own system that I call the Power Story Formula. And it's something that I'm gifting to you. And the only thing you have to do is sign up for my newsletter. And then I take you through a 3-lesson process that teaches you how to find what I call your power story. And the newsletter, the email class tells you all about what a power story is, but it is essentially a powerful story that you have ready to go whenever you, like I said, you have to give a speech, you want to build a platform, you're out there networking. It's a framework that you can plug any story into. And I take you day by day through the basic processes of the framework so that you can be ready so you don't have to get ready. So if somebody calls you for an interview, you're like, I got this. Instead of, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? You will be prepared with your story, not only with your story, but how to put it together, as well as how to present it. So that's the Power Story formula, and I'm excited to share that with you. And there's a link somewhere around these places. And I'm also giving a behind the stories account, a little bit of how I was chosen to be a part of this interview that talked about country music with Beyonce, Cowboy Carter. Have y'all listened to the album? I can't get enough of it, and I'm a member, a strong, lifelong member of the Rhythm Nation. And if you don't know what that is, that's Janet Jackson's. I stand for Janet. I'm a fan of Janet Jackson, and I just recently got into Beyonce. I started paying attention when she did Lemonade, and then when she did Beychella. But I wasn't a fan of Renaissance. I'll be honest. The music, the tour was amazing, but um, Cowboy Carter, magnificent album. And it just reminded me of growing up listening to country music. My uncle was a country music singer. And I just remember the times when spending time at his house. We would go over there sometimes in the summer and spend a whole month during my summer break. And we watch westerns, listen to country music, watch country television shows, from Hee Haw to the Beverly Hillbillies. And he had me listen to the Mandrell sisters, the Statler brothers, and I love the Donnie Marie show. I'm a little bit country, I'm a little bit rock and roll. And it was one of those things where I talk about in the article, but well, I talked about in the interview, but I grew up in an era we didn't have genres of music. We listened to everything on the radio, from Kenny Rogers to the Beatles to the Isley Brothers, whoever. Music was music, and so we didn't have everything separated out. So we go from listening to Dolly Parton to Public Enemy to you know, George Michael and Wham. And then we go over and we listen to something like Amadeus, some classical music, and then disco and all the things were all on the radio. So growing up, I listened to all types of music, but it wasn't until I went to a country concert that I was like, okay, I'm unwelcome. So I'm going to move on over here to where I'm welcome. And I believe that as people, as women, especially as Black women, especially, in order to help ourselves, we have to go where we're loved. We don't have to fight to be in places where we're not welcome. Because there are a lot of places around the world where Black women are very welcome. There's a lot of places in the United States where Black women are very welcome. So find those places, hang out in those places, and when you get there, be ready to share your story. So, 3 reasons why Black women don't share their story: imposter syndrome. People don't think that people don't think other people will want to hear their story. And the third thing is that people don't know what to say or how to say it. And that's exactly why I put together this free training for everybody via email. And all you have to do is join the newsletter, and it is all yours. And the newsletter is called Speak Your Story. So I'm going to be talking, I'm so excited. I've been talking about doing this forever. Everything I do, I talk about doing forever. The podcast, I talked about doing forever. The coaching program, I talked about doing forever. And now the newsletter, I've talked about doing forever. But this is a year of actualizing, and this is the year of putting it all out there. Um, so I feel it's important, especially as marginalized people. If you're just joining us, I talked about my cousin, but there's so many people who have left this earth who've done remarkable things, and we know nothing about it. I think one thing, and I'm gonna get off here really soon because I have a meeting to get to, but one thing that I remember that really had me stirring about this was the movie Hidden Figures, right? Never knew about these women in my life. And I think about, because I do have a scientific brain, but I did not get into science specifically. And my dad was a pharmacist, so I had the acumen there. And he even wanted me to be a doctor, but I never saw a Black woman doctor. I'm Gen X, so I didn't see that. Anybody who had that position was a male, white or Black, was always a man. So I never saw it. It wasn't represented. And so when I saw Hidden Figures, I was like, wow, maybe I would have worked for NASA had I known it was even possible for me. So, whatever you do in life, however you share life, wherever you go in life, there's somebody behind you that needs to see what you see, that needs to understand why you did the things you do, and who needs to understand that it's possible for them too. I see now we see all these Black doctors, and then we see these young people like, I'm going to be a doctor when I grow up, or whatever you choose to be, an engineer, a analyst, a dancer, a creator, whatever you choose to be. Know that wherever you are right now, there's somebody watching you, and there's somebody that needs to hear your story. And every story doesn't have to be about trauma or sadness. There are great things that happen in our lives that also should be shared. There are moments in our life that were pivotal, that helped us transform who we are today. I can reach back my life and pinpoint 3 people who made such an impact on me that my life changed. I changed as a person. I changed as a human being, and I grew up into a woman who was confidently sharing herself on this platform. because I promise you 20 years ago, you couldn't come at me with anything that would say, here, share your story. I didn't feel important. I didn't feel worthy. And I didn't think anybody wanted to hear what I had to say. And that's it. So, wherever you are, just get a pen and a piece of paper and write down 2 stories about your life that you're like, I wonder if somebody would want to hear this. I wonder how somebody would want to hear how I got my first job, or if somebody wanted to hear um, how I decided what I wanted to do for a living, or how I'm working a job that I don't necessarily like, but I'm building my dream on the side. Those are things people want to hear because there's somebody making those same decisions. And you don't have to be an Oprah Winfrey or a Melody Hobson or Halle Berry. You just have to be a couple of steps ahead of somebody. Because right now, just like you're on YouTube look searching for answers, somebody else is searching for the answers that you have. And that's why it's so important to share your story. So I have enjoyed my time with you all today. I will be back in a couple of days. Please subscribe to this channel. Share this out with anybody that you feel needs to hear this information. And we're going to talk more and more about telling our stories, and speaking your story and sharing who you are with the world in a great way. So I am so grateful to be here. I'm grateful for this platform, and I'm grateful that you have taken the time to listen to what I have to say. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter and start taking your free class. And put in the comments section of what stories that you plan on telling. You don't have to tell the story because you might not be ready for that, but just say, hey, Monica, I'm thinking about telling a story about the time I did XYZ. So have an amazing day. This is Monica Wisdom, Black Women Amplified, and Speak Your Story Coaching. And I'm excited to be with you. And thank you. Thank you. I'm so grateful that you were here to share this moment with me. Have an amazing day.